Let's bring in Sarah Matthews, former Trump White House Deputy Press Secretary, and Denver Riggleman, former Republican Congressman from Virginia, former senior advisor to the January 6th Select Committee. Welcome, both of you. Sarah, first to you, as we're going to start with the Trump post there defending Pam Bondi from MAGA attacks. As someone who literally spoke for the Trump campaign when he was a candidate and as president in his first term, how do you interpret this?
I think he's very frustrated with this news cycle. He does not want us to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein, but obviously his supporters have a right to be upset. This is something that he campaigned on. You had Attorney General Bondi out there saying that she was going to release the list, that the list was on her desk. She handed out these binders to influencers and that said phase 1, implying there would be a phase 2. And they made a big show of it. And for them now to try to tell us that we need to stop talking about it, we need to be moving on. I feel like that is a disservice to his supporters, and it's not going to go away because they have a right to know and demand answers on this. But obviously from this post, you can tell that Trump is very frustrated. And if I had to make a prediction, I think that he is going to try to shift the news cycle this week by either saying something very controversial or doing something controversial because he does not want us to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
So, Denver, the president appears to be trying to redirect attention to every single boogeyman and conspiracy theorist that he has floated over the years. He also claims the Epstein files were written by the architects of the Russia election interference investigation. But Epstein was arrested in July 2019, died in custody 1 month later. To what extent can Trump distance himself from this?
Can't.
I think
it's like. Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking me. I'm sorry.
You're
asking Sarah.
No,
Oh, you're asking me. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Sorry about that. No, I don't think he can. I think it's like conspiracy theorists gone wild, right? You start the conspiracy theory, then you try to stop the conspiracy theory, but the conspiracy theory is already metastasized throughout the United States. What I find interesting too, he's like, let's move on from Epstein. Nobody cares. You know who cares? The women who were abused and raped and the families of those that were affected. I think that they care. I also think that when you're asking people to go away from it, it's like asking the firefighters not to put out the fire on the house that you set, right? And it looks like that's what he did, right? He's like, hey, firefighters, don't put out the fire that we set, talking about the Epstein files, the fact that Pam Bondi said she had the Epstein list or the client list, the fact we've been saying that Tom Hanks and Democrats and the deep state are all on the Epstein list. And I think that's the issue that you have, right? When you start a conspiracy theory, when you have an administration that lives by lies and conspiracies, it's very difficult to put out that fire because the credulous and the ignorant have grasped onto this in a way that we've never seen. I think it hurt. I think this hurts him long term. You can't get away from this because now he's going against QAnon. He's going against the QAnon conspiracy theories now. Now he's in real trouble.
There are also, Denver, several reports about a missing minute from the Epstein jail video that Bondi handed out. To what extent does this just add to the suspicions?
Alex, it's hard not to, you almost get to a point that they've lied so much in this administration and things that they've tried to do. You're talking about, the Epstein files or Comer and the Hunter Biden investigation. Everything is just this sort of bizarre alternate reality and fantasy world. And now you have conspiracy theorists fanning the flames that it was actually MAGA that's actually taking out this 1 minute of tape now and that it's been re-edited. And we don't really know what the issue is, right? It could be a glitch. It could be that there was fuzziness or static. We really don't know because I haven't seen the metadata. But I think we're getting to a point we need professionals to look at this because obviously the FBI and the DOJ do not have the professionals based on their sort of laughable leadership to do this in a way that's credible in any way. And now that after Bondi said she had the Epstein list on her desk, now she said it doesn't exist again, I think it just leads to this conspiracy theory madness. Listen, if you win on conspiracy theories, you can die on conspiracy theories. And sometimes crazy eats its own tail. And that's what you're seeing right now.
So the MAGA Revolt, it was certainly evident at the Conservative Turning Point conference this weekend. Almost every speaker mentioned Epstein, with many expressing a sense of betrayal. Here's a snapshot of some of the bigger names. Listen up.
How many of you are not satisfied with the results of the investigation?
What I'm getting at is at some point, we want answers at some point.
Yeah, answer the questions. That's it. Who went to Epstein Islands? Who specifically went on the plane? Who stayed for more than a night?
I don't think they're telling us the truth about Epstein. I think that guy was involved in something nefarious that implicates a whole lot of people.
I will not rest until we go full Jan 6 committee on the Jeffrey Epstein files and every single client that was associated with this thing has an FBI agent at their door on their phone going after them the same way they went after the Jan 6ers.
Look, Sarah, you've had extensive exposure to Trump's base. I'm going to take it a step further than what you said in your last answer. Do you think Trump is panicked by this reaction from his most loyal supporters?
I do think he's panicked. And right now, obviously, we see in his post that he's standing by Attorney General Bondi. But I do think that his supporters are going to expect heads to roll if they're not getting the answers that they need. And so I think right now he's obviously showing some loyalty to her. Who knows how long that will last, but he has been pretty loyal to his cabinet officials like Hegseth when he's come under scrutiny and faced controversies. But obviously he has to be panicking right now. I think him posting that Truth Social post and having the long laundry list of grievances over the years in it, he feels like this is something that is a pile-on effect and adding to those grievances. But the thing is that he campaigned on this. He said that he was going to release the list, and now his supporters are asking him to follow up and follow through.
The MAGA world is coming apart here. You see former Republican staffers, Trump staffers, Republican congresspeople weighing in on this. You've also seen all the people at the conservative conferences. This is going down, and because it's going down in MAGA, you got to know that, like, in the entirety of Trump world, the locations of Trump world, whether it's the White House, whether it's his Jersey Golf Club, whether it's Mar-a-Lago, it doesn't really matter. Trump Tower. The MAGA world is devouring itself because, again, it was based on conspiracy. There's no logical, coherent ideology for 99% of MAGA. Yes, for the rich and wealthy and well-connected Trump voters, it's very clear why they support Trump. Because he passes policies that help the rich and wealthy and well-connected, crush the working class, crush the poor, crush the marginalized, and make them richer. 9% of them, it's conspiracy. And I'm not suggesting the whole Epstein thing is a conspiracy, because I actually think, honestly, that if this is a conspiracy theory, I mean, call me a theorist, because I actually believe that he was taken out by people who want to hide the list. I really believe that. I really do. I don't know. Maybe, let me know in the comments what you think. But the movement was based on conspiracy. And now all of a sudden you have Bondi and Trump trying to sound like they are traditional, respect the authority of the police, of the FBI conservatives, and MAGA isn't buying it. And guys, oh my goodness, the second part, oh wow.
Welcome back to the weekend. Mary, I'm going to start with you because this whole thing has got me tickled, and we need to make this serious. How serious a rift is this, and what do you make of the deputy FBI director, according to sources, demanding that the attorney general be fired, and he didn't show up to work yesterday?
I mean, he's not a serious person. He never came into this job with a serious mission. He has no relevant experience to be the FBI deputy director, and I think that's now showing. And, there are certainly times in my long tenure at the Department of Justice when there are differences between leadership of the Department of Justice and leadership of the FBI. We have disagreed on various things, but you don't do this. You don't go out in public and demand resignations. You don't have public spats like this. You deal with those things like adults who are doing serious work, which is law enforcement and protecting national security in this country. And I think that this rift really exposes, I mean, first of all, what's underlying this Epstein investigation and the disappointment that there was no client list that exposed, high-level Democrats, et cetera, for pedophilia or whatever. Like, this is all a made-up conspiracy anyway. So the very underlying nature of this is not serious, and it's not serious to Department of Justice's mission. And I'm not suggesting that there shouldn't have been an investigation, because clearly what Epstein was convicted of doing was very serious, and there could have been other people involved, and that had to happen. But the conspiracies about it and the reason that this is so annoying to the MAGA base is all just such a sideshow. And then to have that boil over into this very public spat, I mean, I think it just shows us all how dangerous this crew that is leading the Department of Justice and the FBI is. How unsafe.
Can I ask one procedural question before we get into like the whole politics, the very messed up politics of this? So in the memo that they released, they said that there were over 1,000 victims. Is the fact that there are just so many victims and the worry about personal information, because there are files that could be released in the name of public transparency, but is it a question of victims' rights, essentially?
Well, certainly for victim identities, it absolutely is.
They could redact those names.
They could redact names, but you would also have to redact enough details so that the people couldn't be identified. And I don't know the extent of the redactions. That's very different than naming those who might have been responsible. But even then, right, people have due process rights, and you're not going to want to name people as being responsible for committing crimes if you do not actually have evidence, probable cause, and are prepared to seek an indictment and that kind of thing. Because otherwise you're tarnishing people and not giving them their day in court.
But that's the proper way to do it.
Exactly. We should respect due process.
So they do respect due process sometimes. Right. Interesting. You know, Joe, this is a really good reminder to everyone that's out there that is like the deep state is stopping something, is doing something. There's not a deep state. There seems to be just like, you know, bumbling people, making it very deep, not House of Cards or Scandal, you know what I mean? And I wonder what you think of the deputy director of the FBI saying, it's me or her, the attorney general. What does that mean? He clearly thinks he has enough juice to make this a thing, right? Because otherwise he wouldn't say that.
He does. Yeah. Politically, he does. Look, this is funny, but it's sad. This is sad because think about it. The Republican Party base, the MAGA base, for 10 years, they've been promised this huge deep
by
state.
Bongino,
by Bongino, by Patel, by Bondi, by Vance, by Trump. Oh, yeah, by the guy in the White House. That there was this huge conspiracy, deep state, pedophilia ring, Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Tom Hanks, all going to be dragged out onto the street and hung. The base has been promised this for 10 years. They're not going to just shrug this off. And Bongino knows that, which is why he's running for cover right now. But the outrage here is, Eugene, you said it. Before they served in government, before they had to deal with actual truth, they were the ones out there spreading this bull crap.
Thank you. It's very
good.
This morning. In the 9 a.m. you could say that.
Going to get us in trouble.
I don't know how they get out of this unscathed. And Trump is trying to wish this away. I've seen some MAGA people all of a sudden now say, well, we actually have never cared about Epstein. It was never really that important. But no, by and large, guys, this is dividing MAGA. This is going to cause a rift at Mar-a-Lago, at Bedminster, at Trump Tower, in the White House, wherever every other Trump property in the country. Chicago, he's got a place in Chicago, for example. This is going to be bad for him. His movement, the 99% of them seemed fine with Trump making them poorer, as long as he was owning the libs. But for them, it seems like this matters a lot, and they don't get a satisfactory answer.